What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the debut EP by South Korean pop singer Psy. Basically, this project is called Psy Psy, Six Rules Part 1, and it came out in the summer of 2012. So the thing about this particular hit EP here is just the fact that it was anchored by the lead single and hit single Gangnam Style, which was a huge song back on YouTube back in the early 2010s. It was a song that was pretty much one of the first YouTube videos to get over 1 billion plays on there. Huge meme song pitches like that just made a huge deal between 2012 2013, some of those type pitches. But it caught a lot of backlash, not because of it wasn't controversial things like that, but it's just kind of the concept that a lot of folks, pretty much myself included, back in those days, back in 2012, 2013, before I made this Acid Roots channel, some of those type fairs, I kind of followed the backlash where there were a lot of folks saying, yeah, this song is good, but what else does Psy have as far as this pitch kind of happens? It's just kind of the concept that there were some folks that paid attention saying, yeah, this is an awesome song, just dove into the memes and the hype and the furor, and then there were critics about it that were kind of like, well, what else does he have to offer? And that was just kind of the context. Now, I will admit, nowadays, I definitely probably should have cashed in on the trend of this back in 2013, but I look after it was some blistering type appeal just within the concept. This is a humongous type song, and nowadays I especially kind of miss these particular type songs just coming out of nowhere and just cramming onto the scene and just being a huge particular deal. It needs to happen more often. The concept of a YouTube sensation that not only was big on YouTube but also big on just in the music scene, that needs to particularly happen again. I'd have to say it was just a product of the 2010s, pretty much a song that just feels like a staple of the 2010s. I'd have to say, even if the concept that Psy was seen as a one-hit wonder within that fashion, he still did manage to deliver a hit album here. So that's kind of the pitch behind it. I would have to say this is a pretty quality album. There never was a Psy 6, Six Rules Part 2. He said he wanted to move on to his next album, but I look within the fashion, for the most part, in terms of America, pretty much this is his only real hit song. I want to say I know he at least did a song with Snoop Dogg, and he might have gotten other couple possible hits that were only standalone singles within some of those type fairs, but it's just kind of the concept. For the most part, when you think of Psy, it's kind of thinking of when you think of I'm Blue, Dabba Dee, one of those type songs, some of those type pitches, they're just kind of one-hit wonder, and you just realize, or a song like Hadaway, What Is Love, some of those type ones, just kind of the concept that he's just one of those type dudes that was kind of just known mainly for this song, and then you just kind of moved on. But the thing about this is not an album that's wholesomely in English as far as those fairs going to happen, but it does have an excellent amalgamation. There definitely need to be more folks that cross over from an Eastern kind of market to this sort of fair, because this particular style, this did some revolutionary type stuff, but it just was not capitalized upon. I feel like Gangnam Style is definitely something that went along with an EDM type sound that just feels like a hyper intense kind of version of that. Just kind of the concept of nailing typical EDM, but then turning up the notches by 5 or 6 as far as those pitches kind of go. It was just an excellent aspect kind of get that, and that's kind of the concept of the hit quality behind this song. It's difficult to follow up because I think Psy did not want to just be known as the EDM guy or something like that. Didn't want to just have to do more songs like that. Usually when you get a huge song that bankable, people want a sequel to it or many clones to it until it gets worn out. But it's just kind of the concept. He did manage to do other songs within those pitches. I'll definitely say that the balance of the 6 songs on this particular product was pretty large just within the appeal behind it. But it's just kind of the concept that there is truly no sequel to Gangnam Style on this particular album. There are a few other dance songs, but they just don't have the same catapulted type success. It's just kind of the concept that this was kind of a meme song, and anytime you get a meme song, something like that, when you think of Shoulder Lane or Lean Back or some of those type of ones that just kind of have some of those type of pitches, Make It Rain, some of those type of fairs, and the rap sense, it just kind of reaches the context as far as saying that it's just difficult to follow up unless you have further memes out of your bag of tricks to unveil, which Psy didn't on here, but it's not to say this is a bad project. It's going to get almost a 10 out of 10. It's just within pitch. Now, realizing when you don't have the full bound kind of I enjoy this particular, 5.5 out of 6 songs on this EP I recommend, but it's just kind of the pitch that when it's not just a clean sweep, it's just kind of concept that it may not be a 10, but I look after it is going to get well over a 9 out of 10, I'd say, within the pitch. So that's just kind of the concept, but there's definitely more to this album than meets the eye, I'd have to say, within the fashion behind it, despite the fact that maybe the lead single has pretty much the most anchored kind of attention in terms of the radio snap about it. There are some other ones type on here, even if you don't understand in some cases what Psy is saying, I still would say that it has enough basic kind of amalgamation. It's just basically an early 2010s pop album, just in a different language. I'd have to say, if you do not speak Korean, as far as those pitches kind of happens, just within the aspect behind it. But the concept about it is, it just feels like something Rihanna or David Guetta would do. Some of those type of folks. This has songs on here. It feels like there's one song on here that kind of reminds me of a differential version of Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. There's just some good pitches. One feels like a Rihanna song from 2010 or 2011. So it's just some fairs like that. But Yeah, we'll go ahead and get to it here. Just within the pitch behind it, the lead single was Gangnam Style. This is like a classic kind of early 2010s YouTube and blitzing kind of dance club smash kind of get here. Definite highlight meme song, and this is a great song to have hella shots to, some of those type pitches. So, real great one to get tore up. If there would have been more songs like this on this particular product, I think it definitely probably would have went multi-platinum and even further. This is a huge deal, but it's just kind of concept that this is like a classic example of like a one-hit wonder that just could not figure out as far as like the context of what to do. It's not to say that Psy didn't have the he actually did put out further albums. This is not his first project. It's just his first crossover. It's just his first crossover project. So he did have other projects just within the time, but this is pretty much like the song that is like most of these folks, the one-hit wonders I was describing before, is just the main song that he's known for, and just kind of the main song that he's known for amongst the pitches, just within the deliverance, and just not really being given too much of a chance. I want to say the thing about this project is just the fact that he did not really attempt to follow up this particular project. I don't know. It's just kind of the amalgamation of how this particular project came out. I think the backlash might have harmed somewhat Psy within those particular type pitches, because I look after just being able to say that there was no second single, and the thing was just kind of concept that he gave folks like a very quality and just exhilarating type song, was just the concept that the promotion didn't really happen as further, and there never was like a 6 Rules Part 2 as far as those pitches can happen. So it's this kind of concept. It just really was kind of like a one-shot type degree. So I'm saying, I mean, this album definitely has other hits, but it's this kind of concept that there was no further promotion. So it's this kind of concept just in terms of being able to do something else, but just not having. I mean, it's just typical example of what happens when folks want a certain degree of something and then they don't get it, and it just kind of causes catastrophe as far as those pitches can happen. It's not Psy's fault. I don't want to say it's full bound kind of like the audience's fault, but it's just kind of the concept in terms of something that would have been conducive to the radio. This is the format of just figuring out what particular atmosphere to craft towards those sorts of charts would have particularly kind of happen. So it was just a difficulty, but for the most part, I do recommend every song on this project, minus like Never Say Goodbye just being an almost song. I still would say within that fashion, me recommending 5.5 out of 6 songs in here. I'm gonna go ahead and give this EP like a 9.75 out of 10. Just basically on the cusp. I feel like it's just the pitch behind it. So talk about Never Say Goodbye. This is a pretty damn excellent song within the pitch, but I just question the oftenness of when I would listen to it within the appeal behind it. It is a nice one, but it's like a makeshift kind of car stretcher. I'd say just some rainy day kind of moodiness I would feel like, but it's just kind of a halfway pep talk kind of energized romp to kind of get within some of those senses. So about first verse is kind of that moody kind of rainy day typeness, just that kind of tugging kind of piano type fare, but then halfway in the song it switches to like a kind of get crunk and rock on type appeal, just something to kind of get you entered, something to kind of get you motivated, and just being like, yeah, I can do this. Some of those type fares just in the pitch behind it, just kind of aspect as far as that particular kind of goes with that. Kind of a pep talk type one, just energized type romp, kind of get within those tones is the pitch. Kind of a pep talk, just energized type pitch to kind of get within that particular tone. Just a good push for some of that, but it's just kind of pitch. It switches back to like the tugginess at the end of the song, but I look after within the tone, it's kind of the pitch behind it. I just question, like, for one thing not being able to understand the lyrics. Not like there's a problem with that, but it's just kind of the pitch as far as saying, I don't know, I look within it. I like it's a good concept to be able to have some of these type ones to have the aspect as far as saying that it just gets you through like a rainy kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, some of those type fares that just feeling like a slog type day. And there's another one that's like that on here that just does it better, which is What Would Have Been. But I look within the push behind it, it's just kind of the concept that it's a good energizer, but just kind of deals with the concept of just kind of deals with the degree as to how affable you think it would kind of be within that tone within it. But it's just a good type pitch. So some of these type ones on here is like What Would Have Been is the second most popular song off this. What Would Have Been is the second most popular song off this EP according to Spotify, and it's like a breezy kind of cruise around on like a slog day. I would feel like here, just have a tall cool, and I would definitely recommend this typical day kind of push it. I'd say about this one. So the last 3 songs on this particular product are just a little bit more of like typical kind of workaday type songs. This one's a little bit more of like a mellow type song, just a slog type day, just in the pitch behind it. Maybe not so much as rainy of a day. It's like a real kind of just thunderstorm type day, like Never Say Goodbye, but it just is within the pitch as far as saying that this still is kind of a moody type one with the pitch. I do like the appeal of this one. I don't know. You would think it'd be the other way around, that I would prefer the pep talk type one, because it tries to get you a little bit more motivated and just a little bit more energized within the pitch. But I actually prefer like the moody kind of emo-ness of What Would Have Been just a little bit better. It's just nailed those particular vibes. Psy has a pretty good job of doing that. Year of 77 is a nice one as well. It's like a nice peppy and kind of dewy makeshift comedy. Year of 77 is like a nice peppy and dewy kind of makeshift comedy to kind of get within those senses. This usual Traverse, I'd have to say, Monday, Tuesday type music within the tone behind it. And this is like some workaday fun to kind of get here. This is one of those type ones that I was saying that reminds me of like Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. Some of those type pitches, just definite. The Blueprint 3 and to a lesser extent kind of recovery type template, a just like typical kind of city push within the aspect of just getting some work done as far as those fairs going to happen. Just typical kind of get stamps and bill paying type music, get the electric bill paid, some of that type fare, just the aspect of just kind of typical type fare, just usual typical type fare, just usual push, and just standard blue collar and white collar type fare within the fashion. So it just feels like the most factory one on here in terms of a makeshift sense, but that's a nice one. And then the first three songs are the more dance oriented type ones. So talk about Blue Frog. This is a nice one as well. It's like a romantic kind of after moments of dance night craze, I'd have to say here. Just more meaningful kind of slow dance type moments kind of get here. Just one where, you know, the arms, kind of one of the ones where someone's arms would be laced around your neck as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just a good vibing song kind of get within some of those type pitches, I'd have to say. So it's just good aspect kind of have for some of that there. This necessary type song within those particular pitches. Obviously the craze factor, Gangnam Style, when things start to slow down. It's just pretty much end of the night type fare, where I'd probably say for like a more like traditional kind of adult type fashion, I'd have to say probably like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning as you start to head home. And for like a more adolescent type fashion, probably be like, you know, obviously end of the dance night, some of those type of appeals behind. But it is a nice one. Passionate Goodbye is a quality one as well. And this is the second most quality song in terms of like the turn up with like the fashion of something as crazy as Gangnam Style. Not as crazy as Gangnam Style, but probably like an 8 or an 8.5 compared to that. I'd say Passionate Goodbye is like a vintage kind of early 2010s EDM. Say Passionate Goodbye is like a vintage kind of early 2010s EDM pop fluff to kind of get here. Just a typical kind of Rihanna, say a typical kind of Rihanna like dance gem to kind of get within some of those senses, and just a vanilla jump to kind of have about this particular pair. So it's just a good concept for that. Good concept for that within some of those type pitches. Like I was saying, this is the second most ferocious one according to those aspects. It is EDM related just within the pitch as far as that particular kind of goes, but just a little bit more like pretty much like I would say this probably would have been the first single. I probably would have said that Gangnam Style should have been like the second single. I probably would have recommended Passionate Goodbye to be the first single, kind of the one that kicks things off. The 7:30, 8:30 type one as things start to get crazier a little bit later with Gangnam Style, and then eventually winds down with Blue Frog. But it's just kind of a good type pitch, kind of get within some of those type fares that I'd say. So that's the aspects. So yeah, once again, this EP gets a 9.75 out of 10. I'd have to say the social score I'll probably go ahead and give a 10 out of 10 though. I just look within the aspect, or at least I might say a 9.75. I think I'll give it a 10 out of 10 because just the quality on here. These songs do have the social snap about them. Some workaday type ones for like that blue collar and white collar type fashion, just kind of get to work, and some of those Monday, Tuesday type ones that just keep you in good sorts, but then also like some good dance type moments, and especially getting spicy with songs like Passionate Goodbye and Gangnam Style. So it just has the excellent aspect, being able to nail those, just the pitch behind it. The only thing this project really lacks is just a follow-up single and just a little bit more attentiveness that probably could have gotten to Psy as far as promoting him further to keep him from being a one-hit wonder. Just felt like it was all about timing the aspect of how it was particularly handled. It's not like it was Psy's fault or his label's fault. It was just kind of the pitch that it's just unfortunate because just judging by the viciousness of Gangnam Style, he probably could have had a lot more particular aspects of just getting a lot more severity, but just didn't really happen within those pitches. It would have been nice to have gotten a sequel to Gangnam Style and some other type pitches throughout the 2010s. It just didn't happen that way, so I'll say 10 social. In terms of the future, like Psy, he has been around. He has dropped albums probably as far as this pitch can happen. Like I said, for the most part, he continues to only be known for Gangnam Style, maybe like a couple of standalone singles that may not be on albums. But I just look within the fashion behind it. That excellent type project here to be able to get just a good aspect definitely would gobble this up as far as this pitch can happen, because it is worth the investment. Even if you full bound don't understand what's being said on this product, it's a whole assortment of fun, and it's definitely vicious within the appeal behind it, and just delivers on a whole anchorage amount of a lot of good aspects, I'd have to say.